I'm going to get started. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
It's really nice to see all of you guys in person. And great programs a lot of you have led. It's been great listening to all the new stuff that folks are doing and just hanging out in general. And I did bring some chocolates from Boston. So, please take some. Please. It's actually a chocolate place in Brookline, which is not far from where I live. So many of you hear me, at Starbucks. It's in this little. So it's a chocolate place near there. It's a women-owned chocolate shop. They specialize in, I don't know if this is vegan, but they do specialize in vegan chocolate. So try it out. I thought we'd do something similar to what we've done in the past, or what Kate, our Phyllis leader, initially had us do, which is put topics that we want to talk about here. So we're going to do that. So, well, you can share with Amelia, with Dennis. So the goal is to put any topics you want to talk about. We'll see if there's some themes. And we'll try to talk about it. Maybe other things that I know I'm going to start.
Is that we have
Who needs a pen? Okay, that's good. Oh,
come on, that's
if you want to, if you don't want to put your name on it, it's okay. It's okay. We'll probably know who you are anyway, but it's fine.
We just supposed to be on different pieces of paper to see whatever you want.
No, it's supposed to be separate.
Okay, these are separate documents, separate.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
They're not working with that.
Yeah. Where's the one?
We did not do that.
Oh, that, yeah.
No.
Are you in? Okay, think of the favorite podcasters. Who's recommending podcaster?
Oh, very good. Oh, thanks. All right, great. Well, it's just very nice fun. We've got another.
All right.
We do have our own.
Okay, some folks are also giving recommendations of books and podcasts, if you want to do that too. You don't have an idea?
I don't read. Exactly.
Great.
Are you currently?
I'll come down to do it. Allows me to get my steps in.
Yeah, I know. So that's a question. We'll go for. I digress.
So if you do have a recommended podcast or book, why don't we just put it on the sticky? So, and yeah, your recommendation.
Lenny's podcast, highly recommend Lenny.
All right, I can do this.
He interviews individuals and software, product, entrepreneurs, etc.
Mhm.
Love Lenny.
Okay. All right. So, anybody else? Okay. Oh. All right. So before we go through this and kind of group them together and figure out what topic to discuss first, are there any announcements that anybody wants to make in general? Okay. I think the CSP4 was released this week.
Yes.
Yeah, and I guess we're still waiting on the date for CSP5 for Quiznalia. How are UATs going? Before we get to this, I just am curious, how are the UATs going? Okay, great, great. Arena and Steph, Ryan, all giving thumbs up. Do you need any help or an assistance with UATs? Okay. All right, let's then talk a little bit about not sunflower, I'm sorry, we're in Ramson's. So we'll go to Ramson's real quick. Right now, just to go through this dashboard quickly, and then we'll go through the list that folks provided as ideas. This is currently the list of some of the features that are at risk. We only have 2 sprints left before dev freeze. So if your feature is currently in progress and it's like, or in draft, it probably should go on this list now. So when you have a chance, I know everyone's busy, but by the end of the week, please update this so we have a better idea. And then we can talk to stakeholders like Harry and others about, and Mark Bexler and others, and Alexi Petrinko, Mr. Petrinko about this list too. And then just in general, it's pretty impressive the amount of features we're working on in this release. I don't know if you guys look at this dashboard, but it's 115 features. Some of them are NFRs, but a good amount are new features. And it's been great to hear about all the work that folks have been doing as a part of Ramson's in this this conference. I think that's it. The only other thing, there are only 2 other areas I want folks to be mindful of with regard to Ramson's. We already talked about the at-risk list. Everyone kind of gets that you got to hurry up and add that label. But for the statuses, we're doing pretty good. I'm assuming the in progress ones are near done. I'm hoping. Here, the open ones seem to be mostly around test or NFRs. But again, as I said, if you have something open now, it's time to add the label at risk or move it to sunflower. It's too late. And the same thing with draft. And again, in refinement analysis, I believe most of these are things that are NFRs or testing. But again, I think you guys got it. If it ain't started yet, let us know if it needs to be a part of Ramson's. So, and then a few of you know about this. Hey, Zori. This widget here. This is a widget where I track all of the stories that are still assigned to a release. Several of you. I'm not trying to call you out here. Well, you see Christine and our team is here too. It's 29. So, but I've been reaching out to some of the POs to ask to review this list here again, because we want to minimize as many of these as possible for dev freeze. We don't want to continue development past dev freeze or into Bugfest. Look at Mark who's here. So again, take a look at your backlog. My assumption is most of this is just cleanup. So just clean up your backlog, move things that need to be moved from Ramson's into other releases. But we want to try to at this point, probably be within this 20 to 30 story window with 2 sprints left. And that might still be a little risky. That's my take. Are there any questions about what I just reviewed, or do you guys have any things you want to bring up about the ransom release? Good, bad, meh, around Ramson's arena?
We're also related.
The Ramson's what release? Maybe. I guess it really depends on what is discussed as far as at-risk features here.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
If we come up to do the work plans, but also
Yeah.
announcements, what to do with these features?
I thought it goes to something.
Well, it could go to Sunflower, but it could be that there's some that may have to be done before Sunflower. Yeah, so there's some features that may require additional time. And we'll learn more about that depending on if they do need additional time.
Okay.
And we'll let everybody know if that needs to happen. So yeah, I guess it will really depend on this list of features arena and the ones that we really need to have in Ramson's and how we plan for those features. All right. Any other questions about Ramson's? All right. And then before we get to the list of questions, like as we're wrapping up Ramson's, we're on to Sunflower. I know. Feeling it too. This is just the current list of features that are assigned. It's a shorter release. I believe Alexi's planned only 7.5 to 8 sprints. So just, given that we're trying to wrap up a very long release with Ramson's, try to minimize as possible. I know it's hard for all of us because of commitments and requirements that we all have. If we can minimize the number of features that we do, that would be great, so that we can maybe focus on bug fixes, fixing more bugs. I know it's difficult, but we just have to be mindful of the fact that it's a very short release. So it's probably a good time to just spend time on bugs and then preparing for Trillion. Any other questions about Sunflower? I mean, it's right here. There's even a deadline of the end of the week to have the initial, features defined. And I think for many of us, we're here. So we'll need an extension. But do you guys have any questions about Sunflower at this time? Okay. So now I'm going to stop sharing the dashboard here. But there's nobody on the phone, so this is great. We can just chat away and I don't have to worry about Zoom. But do you guys have any questions, concerns, or any announcements you want to make before we get into the list of questions? All right. Okay, so I'm just going to review some of these and then I think we'll figure out what we start to talk about first.
Actually, I do have a quick question.
Yes, Dennis.
About do you have any sense of the probability that Sunflower would be extended? Is there any probability? Do we have any sense of that?
It sounds like pre-planning to have lots of stuff.
I think, well,
I was gonna say, is the question
I'm just curious.
needed to be longer?
It doesn't have a lot.
well, I think we should come up with our proposed list of features we feel we are comfortable committing our team to at this time, and then have a discussion with Alexi and the release management stakeholders, 2 of them who are here, Mark and Harry over here. But oh yeah, I'm on it too. So, but yeah. So I think just post the list. Like, let's just put the list together, show them, say, this is what we think or we'd like to do. And let's, like anything, have a conversation and see how it may impact other processes and workflows or milestones that Alexi's already set. Any other questions or responses to Dennis's question?
So should we already be putting those features at risk?
Well, like everything, and like what I've seen in a couple of these, it's all about prioritization, right? So, all right. So looking at this list, we have large feature planning as one. I think there's a theme here already. Managing late breaking issues and bugs. All right. Learn how POs work in the Folio community. Plan to extend modules in the next year. Okay. Early testing. I'm trying to group these as we're talking here. Put unrefined requests in a ticket, yes or no. Ginormous backlogs. App formalization. Prioritization. Okay. Future of maintaining and testing both a copy and Eureka. Oh yeah. Okay. App formalization. Okay. Tips for when and how to close all tickets. Okay. And then features without funding. Yeah. Yeah. Developer documentation. All right. How does your team indicate when a story features only for the testing and verification versus okay. All right. Right. And support ticket prioritization. All right. So we got a lot around prioritization and backlog maintenance. So which ones would we want to tackle first?
Or assortment priority.
That's true. That's true. I set myself up for that one, didn't I? Yeah. How about, why don't I just say what we should start with first? And that's, how about backlog management? So, Julie,
Yeah.
you asked, you had something, ginormous backlogs. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I mean, so there's no particular like absolute like focus pain points or anything. I'm just generally wondering, and also with my institutional thing, like, so I know, I know agile development, I know the purpose of the backlog, right? I'm wondering. Sorry, I'm trying to think. Like, so yeah, ginormous backlog coming in the sense of like, I don't know how helpful it is at all or not to document every single request or like as in request or even like idea wish that the library would have, but on the other hand, if we don't document it, then maybe it gets forgotten. And I realize the concept also that, we regularly go back at the backlog and say, is this still needed? Yes or no? Are we doing this regularly? I mean, I'm looking at myself, have I regularly gone back and made sure and regularly asked the SIG, this ticket has been around for years. Is it just that we managed to live without it, but we still want to when we decide not to? How helpful is it then when we think of Jira as a place, for lack of anywhere else, to put ideas? How helpful is it, like I say for myself, like to have, 200 features with, hey, I'd like this for emails.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's little more than a title because nobody has got around to actually fleshing it out.
Yeah.
Is it helpful or not? I don't know. I know that my first reaction is more like, I'm like a bunny in the lamplight, like I'm frozen with the amount of everything to do. But on the other hand, apart from maybe a private page in the wiki, I have nowhere else to put it, and I want it to be transparent so that I feel I can tell people like maybe there's already a ticket for this. I don't know, and I think it's more like it's not very important at my level, but I'm feeling uneasy with the mushrooming the size of the tickets and features. And in my library as well, as an implementation, it's like, we'll never get everything done that my librarians want. And I don't know to what extent it's helpful to say, formulate everything or prioritize, or if there's a way to already upfront say like, formulate within this, like these borders, but I hate the idea of like people self-censoring beforehand. And I guess I'm like, it's a bit like, so it's a bit psychological, you know, therapy, like how do people go about the ginormous backlog?
Yeah, and you're trying to manage your institution's backlog and what you're hearing from the community, right?
A mix, I mean, I guess it's more that in my experience as a PO, I'm using it to try and help, like, gain the skills that I've gained here to apply them also to my institution, per se.
Okay. Joe, then Arena.
Okay, so we actually, just a couple months ago, did kind of a spring cleaning. That went through a number of phases. So the acquisition SIG, we've got our implementers topics page that we do a terrible job maintaining. It just keeps getting added and added, but theoretically, once something has been converted to a feature and scheduled, it's supposed to get moved off that page, and now everything is happening in zero, theoretically. We don't maintain that, but that's kind of where we keep track of all of the requests that happen. And then early-ish during the Ramson's release, which thankfully was an extended release, we said, okay, what are the timelines that we have to deal with, so we can get a little bit of a look ahead at Sunflower Trillium Umbrella Leaf, see what's already been assigned. But I also ran a list of, well, let's also take a look of all of the Thunderjet features that exist and have no release canon, like that are just out there. And then we did like an internal prioritization thing, looked at them, you know, we do everything on Miro because that's how we operate. And said internally, have we addressed this? Have we addressed this in a different sort of way? Like, is there another feature that actually does this? We did a fair bit of feature deduplication because over all these years, there are a lot of duplicate features. Is this, you know, and just went through internally, is this, how do we address this and do some of that cleanup? We were able to do like a number of closed ones we were closed as duplicate and referred it to the new feature. And then the other stuff, we then went back and did a series of sessions with the SIG and asked straight up, is this still relevant? Can we get a little more information? Can we get more clarity? And then based on that, we don't have releases assigned to everything yet, but we were able to do some trimming and get kind of an updated documentation system, which, I mean, it's far from perfect, but at least we've got some better sense of what we can do away with versus what we have to keep an eye on. Like I said, it's far from perfect, but we trim things down to a more manageable number. I think it's only like 35 or 40 features now that we have to account for. But that's what we did. The challenge with that is taking the time to go through and then do the internal sorting and then work through the SIG because you've got a number of people. So you do have to do a little bit of judicious analysis and what are you going to do with it? Because there are some things you know are just simply never going to happen. But we had a number of features in there that were related to proposed technology developments that we ended up just going in a different direction. And so these things are never going to happen because that technology stack was never developed, will never be developed. We went in a different way.
No, I think, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna ask a question of Joe. For the meeting that you've done, did you close any as well to just because they're old and maybe they're lower priority, you never get to them, or were they all ones that, you know, just weren't needed anymore?
So won't do is basically It was a combination, mostly stuff that had been replaced through other processes or just the technology. The folio just moved in a different direction, like it was projecting a zig and we actually zagged. Stuff that right now is really low priority, but in some distant future we might move back to. We left those intact because we do want, I would rather have that there and get more clarity and more understanding from the SIG on how big of an issue is it really, and then can we build out that feature into something that we can insert into a release. If it's something that was worth building out more into a release, then that goes in one stack versus, yeah, this is never happened.
Yeah, and a few of the key things there, like, if you just close it, then you're kind of just getting rid of it. It's not solving anything. I agree that you want to have the stuff in the backlog, that's what the backlog is for. But the key thing is trying to organize it and taking the time occasionally to make it before it does get out of control. And because we typically are pulling features for releases, and the SIG, like the SIGs, the community, they tend to operate at that level. The more you can work those stories into a more general feature or even very specific feature, I think it makes it easier to surface what it is you're trying to accomplish with that thing and talk with the SIG about it, get them to do some voting or go through an exercise like we did, because we worked out as many of the stories as we had as possible with features, and that's the level that we did review at. So, yeah, but obviously it takes effort.
Steph, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I think Arian had some.
Yes, as the answer for your question, I want to just say that, I think that the law can have everything, if it will be assigned to some feature or epic, and if it does not have priority assigned team and release, it does not harm, can be stored.
The thing that you can do is, have a stick prioritize them all. You know, in a spreadsheet, and then maybe, decide to take a look at the top 5 or 10 and, see how interesting they are. Do they fit in what, you're currently working on or what we're trying to achieve, in that area? And, maybe cut the risk.
I focus more on the story, bug, task, tech debt backlog than the feature backlog. And because Vega's backlog has existed for so long and because we've absorbed other modules, if it's older than 5 years and no one's touched it and no one's updated it, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's closed at home too. The backlog is so large, I cannot have that kind of clutter. But the other thing I did was, the RISig wanted to do a working session, here at WOLFcon, so I put together 2 filters for them. One of tickets that were older than 1 year, and one of tickets that were older than 2 years, and asked them to go through and see, is this still applicable? Do we still need this? Does this functionality exist anymore? And for them to start working with those tickets and posting things and figuring out if it's worth even having the product owners kind of.
That's good. Great ideas. How often do you folks kind of review their backlog?
I'm in my backlog every day.
Yeah.
But I mean, user versus features. So stories every day. What about features?
Features,
As little as possible.
Once, when I just joined the project, and I saw a huge bag.
You did.
And we cannot take anything from this, so this is something old, not defined or not required. Now I'm not looking.
Okay.
Just dashboards.
Okay.
whenever we're approaching the scope deadline, we're reviewing all the features, like
So
we were considering.
once a release.
Once a release.
Yeah.
I can't look at all of them in the release.
Yeah.
There's too many.
Yeah. Like it's just, yeah.
Yeah.
At the future level, there's. Yeah.
So part of, another thing that we started doing, and this is going to be a process. And I realize what I'm saying, everything takes time, but taking the time to do it once makes it less time down the road. So another thing we're doing when we're looking at features that and where to slot, we're also looking at the nature of the feature. Like, is this a feature that involves architectural changes that need to be made in order to facilitate certain things? Is this something that enhances an integration with external systems? Is this some, does this advance just the broader functionality that we're responsible? Like, is this something that has to happen in order for market parity or whatever? So we do a certain amount of categorization. Is this something that came from the SIG and is of high interest to the SIG? That gets a different type of category than stuff that we generally know needs to happen. And what we want to do, we're not doing it quite yet, but what we want to do is we want to kind of break down when we approach a release, we like to allocate a certain amount specifically for community stuff, a certain amount specifically for back-end technological stuff, just so that we maintain kind of a balance of moving things forward. But once you know where it slots in, it makes it a little bit easier to manage that. But going through and doing that exercise in the first place, that does take time. But then, like Dennis said, when we're getting to feature deadlines, it makes it that much easier. And we don't just slot for sunflower, but we got tentative trillium tentative umbrella leaf, which we're going to, once sunflower is underway, we're going to review that and start thinking about, okay, what do we think we might want to do with lead?
Yeah.
And just, and it's literally penciled in, but at least that way we have kind of an eye on where we want to be focusing. So we can take a look at that huge backlog and do we want to pull this forward and do it, or do we just want to leave it in the indefinite backlog? That will also help start to shrink it once we realize, okay, we just got to take the time to do this.
Good. I put Notepad here. I was going to type, but I've been listening more than typing, as you can tell. But I mean, these are great ideas, doing the feature review analysis, figuring out how to work and engage the SIG in this prioritization effort. Definitely some great ideas of how to manage the backlogs and those ideas you're getting. Irina.
Sorry, yeah.
Go ahead.
This to manage and communicate with SIG, maybe we can have at least some roadmap for FOLIO releases to see if it's one last release. Because we have small capacity and always don't have what is planned. So to refine something in advance.
I agree. I mean, and I think some of the things that Dennis and Joe are doing are great ideas to get to that point of looking at the whole, their list of all the features, understanding what the community wants, what the market is asking about.
Usual approach should be this. Yeah, so after I will see what will be after those.
Well, that's up to us, right? Yeah.
Better to be.
Yeah, I mean, but it's up to us to kind of come up with where we think we should be moving forward and working with the stakeholders and sponsors as far as here's where we think we should be moving forward and working with them to then come up with that vision. That's my take on things. In fact, Zori and I had a similar conversation about this related to an ERM, where we're not sure the path for ERM. We know we need to make improvements. We know we can help in enhancing the workflows, but we're not sure what that means. So we got to do the work to figure that out. So, okay, Zorian is going to work on a SWOT analysis to kind of give us some ideas as to, okay, what are the opportunities, the threats, where we excel, where we're weak on, all that stuff. So we can just get a sense of like, where could we go? So to me, I guess, I think we should be the ones helping to form the roadmap, but we gotta also allocate the time to do the work to determine what that roadmap looks like. And give stakeholders and sponsors a sense of where we think we could go and work with them based on what they know to build out a roadmap that meets the needs of our users. That's my take. But others have other takes. Dennis, you had your hand raised.
I think alongside that, like the key, something that's been successful for us in the past, working with the SIGs and other stakeholders, maybe in general, when the word roadmap, like, is trying to maintain expectation and being careful not to talk with them about prioritization. Actually, we tend to use the word impact or interest, because what you're really getting from the community is what they're interested in or what they feel would have like a higher impact on their institution or be more valuable to their institution. But then really to get the priority, you have so many other things that you need to factor in.
Yeah.
So but they can give you a lot of help in that sense. And there's a voting mechanism in JIRA that actually is starting using. It's like an easy way that you can tell them, say that just everybody go, let's, vote for whatever you think is important. Just another metric you can like. There are a lot of little things that you can use to gauge impact.
Well, I think that's part of the problem too, is the community at large doesn't even know how they want to prioritize things, because they've there's been the prioritization working group. We talk about it, voting, and it's talk about it at the city level, and then we talk about it again at larger committee level. And yes, how do you constellate?
And maybe that's also like, I'm so glad because I've actually circled back to what I think I knew anyway, but I've kind of forgotten, like, the software development parts, prioritizations, a backlog, that's complete enough, move forward. And then what I've still been pulling backlog, but I like your idea of like the interest or impact, or like the requests, or even like probably often more the complaints that I hear from our users, our end users and customers, right? And I'm thinking I'm tending towards still like, I think I'm not going to undo what's already there, but maybe try and keep them a bit more separate. And maybe for me, just as a tip me moving forward, ideas, requests, and I want to stop using requests because it's also like the interest, complaints, wishes, sticking to the wiki until we have until they become proper enough to go into a proper dev backlog.
Yeah.
Like to your question, like immediately, I don't know what you panties, and that's not my point, but like I could have hundreds of features for notices, but nobody stepped up to help me to write them, and for right or wrong reasons, I have not written them. So I don't have stuff to give you to Valeris, unfortunately. There would be loads of stuff. But again, also pragmatically, like, it's been 3-4 years, do we actually need this? And I'm realizing also as well, again, and this is where I think I want to separate it a bit more of the backlog for the dev versus the discussions, because my fear is that, and maybe this is just I have to grow as well as in this role and moderate it better. There'll always be interest. They'll never want to the customers, end users, like librarians, they'll never want to close the tickets because it's like, well, we've survived so far, but actually, if someone can go develop it, we really love it. But maybe this is, I don't know what the right question is, but it's not a pragmatic way to move forward at the moment. Hence why I like the idea of the market viability as well. Please, Harry.
So in the past, it's happened quite often. Well, I'll close a whole bunch of them. And then someone who really cares.
Yeah, exactly.
Went and really.
And open it.
And you'll find, 95% of them stayed closed and no one cared.
Yeah.
But there was, a small number that popped back
Exactly.
again.
Exactly.
Then at that point, you can take a quick look at them, and oftentimes, it's just barely even a sentence.
But that's my point. And it's like, I'm thinking that it's, at least me, for my psyche, for my soul, it doesn't help that I know that my backlog feels like 80% a sentence. Because I, nobody else, they're complaining, but they're not stepping up to actually make them dev ready, right?
Yeah.
And so
Oh.
it's unreasonable to expect anyone that you're gonna be able to go in and do all of that.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
And so, you can simply, comment on the bottom, I need more information, more details to better understand.
Otherwise,
what's the
close-
actual problem.
Otherwise, close it, yeah.
And, maybe we can go from there,
Yeah.
but until they do.
I create an epic that says, need more information before any process can be done, from saves and attach them all to it, and then.
Yeah.
Because it's all too easy to create these, right?
I know,
Everyone-
exactly.
But it's really hard to act on it and get something done. And so I think it's perfectly reasonable, there's absolutely nothing wrong with throwing it back on their plate. And if they're not willing to put a little more effort into it, that feature must not really be worth it to them.
Mhm.
So it deserves to be closed against.
Owen.
And you can.
Oh, sorry. Oh, go Harry and then Owen.
I'm done.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it, Owen.
I say this not because I'm practicing it, but I think that's true, that we as product owners, it is our role to manage the product, and that can mean saying we won't do something, like that is not where we see the product going, or that is not on the feature vision for the product. That is what you would do in a commercial setting, if it was your job, and that's okay, I think. And that, in the sense, if you can say won't do to those, you can close them as won't do with a note saying, this would need much more definition and discussion for us to consider it being added to the product. And then if somebody wants to, do that work, they can. And I don't think, I really find Jira is a millstone on my neck, honestly. But I think that we, and I think we should feel able to say, look, this is not my interest to do this. This is not happening, right? And just because, I have stuff in my backlog that I should just close and say, won't do.
Yes.
And that's not won't do ever. It's not
Yeah.
it's I won't do because it's not in the foreseeable future. There's no point in me thinking I might do it in 5 years. It's just
Yeah.
not helpful.
It's noise.
And it's complete noise to the community and to us. And I think that having a backlog, somebody said behind me, having a backlog, and I'm the same. That you actively don't want to look at, it's no help to anyone. So let's just get rid of that noise and